Hey everyone, Ezra here. I'm a driver here in Los Angeles, and I also like making videos about my experiences with apps like Uber and Lyft and delivery apps like DoorDash, Grubhub, and Postmates. So if you're interested in learning more about these apps or learning new strategies, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Now today I have a special video for you guys, and I have an extended interview with another driver, and we talk about a lot of different topics in depth, our experiences with Uber and Lyft, and our experiences as new drivers. And this driver, his name is Khan. He is also a driver in Los Angeles, and he also has a YouTube channel called RideShare Tips. He's got a lot of great videos over there, so definitely go ahead and check out his channel. He actually recently made a Grubhub delivery ride-along video, which is just amazing, so do not miss that. And we also together made a video on Khan's channel about delivering with apps like Grubhub and DoorDash. So if you're interested in that, check out that video. Now this video is pretty long. It's about a half-an-hour interview, and we get pretty in-depth on a lot of subjects. So if you aren't interested in seeing the whole video or don't have a half an hour to spare, just go ahead and look in the video description below. I've annotated it with some timestamps so you can see which topics we cover and when, if you're looking for information on a specific topic. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Have a wonderful day. Hey guys, Ezra here, and today I actually have a special guest, another rideshare driver, because I wanted to present, another viewpoint and another driver's experience and see how it could possibly help you guys. So this is Khan. He's a rideshare driver in LA, and maybe you could tell the folks a little bit more about yourself. And he also has a great YouTube channel over at RideShare Tips. He's got a lot of great rideshare videos. He has a video on taxes. He has some videos about earnings potential with Uber and with UberEATS and some other stuff, and also some great product reviews on rideshare accessories for drivers and some cool vlog style Uber ride-along. So definitely check out and subscribe to Khan's YouTube channel. There's a lot of rideshare YouTube channels out there, but his is one of the good ones.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But maybe you could just tell me a little bit more about your experience with rideshare. When did you first become a driver, or anything else you wanted?
Yeah, so I signed up July of 2015, I believe. I first moved out here to become an actor. And I was originally going to buy a motorcycle just to swerve in and out of traffic in LA. And then I was looking into jobs, and I realized I need a job where I'm going to have a flexible schedule, because when I go to auditions and shoots, it's going to be difficult to have someone cover for my shifts. So then I was taking Ubers everywhere before I bought a car, and I was talking to all the drivers, and they were saying like really good things about it. Keep in mind, this is like 2 years ago. Okay. Before like Uber Pool and all the fares, whatever. So I bought a car. I bought a 2008 Prius, used one, and I was doing Uber. Signed up for Lyft as well. I was making pretty good money with it at first, and then as time goes on, they adjust their fares and everything, so you kind of have to adapt to it, and you have to strategically drive. You have to drive certain hours to make as much money as you did 2 years ago. But overall, I've had pretty good experience with it. I'm still doing it till this day. Just signed up for Grubhub and DoorDash. Gonna expand my my apps.
Yeah, your portfolio.
Exactly, expand my portfolio. But overall, I've had a good experience with it, man.
Okay, awesome. And when you first signed up to drive, did you feel like you were just thrown out there to the wolves? Yeah. Did you have any idea what you were doing? What were some of like the first challenges that you had out there on the road?
Well, I remember my first trip. I remember I was like really nervous for it, because I didn't know what to do. I think a lot of people experienced this, but it's really not that bad. I remember finishing my first trip. I was like, okay. No, that was fun, because I remember the first trip I did, I had a pretty cute girl in the car with me. Yeah. So I was like, alright, I can get used to this. And then as time went on, you just get more and more used to it. You don't become nervous anymore. I guess it was a little stressful in the beginning because of all the traffic, especially here in LA. Just sitting in traffic, I definitely learned to become patient doing Uber and Lyft. Yeah. But some of the struggles, not too many, really. I mean, the only ones I could think of are recent with Uber Pool, when passengers complain about the other person getting dropped off first. Right, yeah, Uber Pool, source of a lot of frustration for drivers and passengers alike. And once you first started driving, were you just figuring things out in the app, like, oh, let me try this and let me try that, or did you, do Google searches to learn how to deal with situations, or did you have other friends that were drivers? Where did you turn to for answers? I basically just through trial and error, I learned everything I know to this day. I should have just like looked on YouTube and found some of your videos if they were around back then, but it's definitely easier today to learn more about it because there's a lot more drivers that are experienced with it. But really, yeah, it was just trial and error, and back then they didn't have earnings boosts or promotions, so you kind of just go out there and make money.
Surge chase?
It was surging a lot back then. So yeah.
I used to do a lot of surge chasing myself, and successfully, but now I've kind of shifted my strategy to take advantage of boosts more because a guaranteed surge is...
Yeah, well, I found that nowadays, the only time it really surges in LA, for me at least, is 2 o'clock when the bars are closing. And I don't even drive late at night anymore. I don't drive past 1 o'clock because I don't like dealing with drunk people.
I hear that.
Have you had anyone throw up in your car before?
I have had someone throw up in my car. It was a really disappointing experience. It happened once. It was actually in 2015, the night of, there was both the Clippers beat the Spurs in a Game 7, and it was also the night that Manny Pacquiao fought Floyd Mayweather in that garbage boxing match, if any of you guys remember that. So there was super huge demand for Uber that night, and it was probably my final ride of the night from downtown LA. Had 4 passengers, picked them up at a bar, 2 guys and 2 girls, 2 couples. They seemed to be totally well behaved. Next thing I know, a guy is just like hurling in the back seat on the 10 freeway, and by the time we pulled over, there's just vomit everywhere. I'm like, terrible. Hey man, you couldn't have maybe just said like, I'm feeling sick, could you pull over? You know, a little heads up. So that was a terrible experience, and hopefully it'll never happen again, but that was the only time. Yeah,
I've only had one guy throw up, like he rolled down the window luckily, and we were stopped at a red light, so he just gagged out of the window real quick, so no cleanup fee for me or anything. But did Uber pay for your cleanup thing? Because it's like $150 they charge a passenger, right?
Yeah, so I think Uber, I forget exactly how much they gave me. I think they actually gave me $200. But this guy, I mean, my car smelled for like a month after.
Oh yeah, you can never get it out.
You can't, I mean, it faded away eventually, but you know, it wasn't worth it for the cleaning fee payout. Also because I specifically remember the next morning after the Pacquiao-Mayweather fight, that all those people that got totally bombed the night before are now looking for rides, and it was like 3 times surging for a while that next morning, and I'm stuck at the car wash getting the vomit cleaned out of my car.
That's a nightmare.
So I missed out on all those great surges. So not a good experience, but I totally understand why you'd want to avoid the bar crowd.
Yeah, they're just obnoxious, you know. The bars are closed and they want to blast their awful music, and they're just sometimes rude to you.
Yeah, there's a fun element to it too. I like being out on the street and everybody thinks you're their Uber. Are you here for Cindy? Yeah. Like, does it say Pontiac vibe?
Yeah. So what I would recommend for that is, even during the daytime, if you're driving and you're pulling up to a popular nightclub or something like that, roll down your window and ask them for their name, because if they just come up to you and say, "Hey, you're my Uber," you're not gonna know who they are. So just say, "Hey, what's your name?" Tony. Okay, yeah, this is Tony. Get in. You know,
that's a great tip.
Because I've one time had the wrong passenger get in the car, but it was like a residential neighborhood. It was one guy. He gets in my car, and I just assume like this is the guy. Like, who else could it be? So I drive the guy. I remember it was like a decent fare. It was probably like $30, $40, something like that. And the next morning, I got an email from Uber like saying, "We took away your fare. It was the wrong guy." So definitely confirm your passenger before they get in the car.
You got Uber jacked.
Got Uber jacked.
That guy might not have even ordered a ride. He might have just been hanging out, waiting.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, what if people just like scammed me? What if it was the guy and just he emailed Uber and said, "Hey, I didn't take an Uber last night"?
It's possible. They seem to have better safeguards in place now with upfront fares, so that it's harder to pull that type of thing, or if that person were pulling one over on you, because generally the destination is going to be in the app now. So, but yeah, we live and we learn.
That's right.
Now, as you were learning how the apps work, were you able to learn anything from other drivers, whether it be online or in person? Do you view other drivers as like your competition or as your colleagues?
I'd say my colleagues. I was driving earlier today, and I keep my like Uber sticker on the car at all times. I just never take it off. And someone pulled up to me at a red light. He was another Uber driver, and he was like, "Hey, like how's it going? Is it busy out there today?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not working." But yeah, I mean, everyone's pretty much friendly to one another, and every time I order an Uber, I talk to the driver. I'm like, "Hey, I'm a driver as well. Like, how's the day going and everything?"
Me too.
I think we all look out for one another.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it should be. You know, as drivers, we're a community, and the better that one of us does, the better we're all going to do generally. You know, if we share good opportunities and strategies, I feel like it'll only come back to help us in the end. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Khan on is because I always like to feature other perspectives. You know, I talk to a lot of different drivers, and everyone has a different experience, different challenges, different successes, different situation. You know, we all drive in different areas at different times, different cars, and everything like that. So it's always good to, you know, take a look outside of my own head and see what it's like for other drivers. So if you had to pick, you know, one app, Uber or Lyft, which would be your favorite?
Lyft. I'd go with Lyft. Yeah.
Because of the tips, or?
Because of the tips, and the number 2 reason is I find the passengers are just overall friendlier.
Oh, okay.
Do you feel the same way?
I don't know that I ever could really point to a specific difference. Yeah. You know, I didn't do a scientific study, but I always thought, you know, most of, you know, 95% or even more of the passengers are cool. Yeah. I found with pretty much all the apps. I mean, the biggest complaint I'm going to have with a passenger is if, you know, they take forever to come outside. But in terms of people being rude or anything else, that rarely happens, you know.
What's the worst ride you've had to this date? Do you remember?
Probably the vomit, but
the vomit? Okay.
That was just because of the vomit. But I mean, I've had other bad rides, and none of them were that awful. It's always bad when you're on like an uncomfortable ride, and you know the only way to get out of it is to finish the ride, and you're just looking at like 6 minutes to destination, 5 minutes. I mean, I remember some funny rides when I was annoyed. Like, I remember one person telling me like when to change lanes, like, get in the left lane. Okay, now get in the middle lane. All right, now get in the right lane. Yeah. And you know, I could like argue, or I'm just like, okay, and like, let's get this ride over with as quickly as possible. Or I remember one, like, people yelling in my car, and I'm like, all right, everybody calm down. I'm gonna get you to your destination just as quickly as I can, and just hoping that there wasn't gonna be a brawl in the back of my car.
So, have you ever kicked anyone out before?
So I actually have. Just like I got vomited on one time, well, my car got vomited on, I've also kicked out a passenger one time, and out of thousands of rides, it's only happened once. But I specifically remember I was at the Bungalow Club over in Santa Monica trying to get a fare, like right around 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I pulled up, and first these two girls like started getting in my car. They thought they were my Uber, but I was there for Billy or something like that. And you know, innocent mistake, sorry, I'm here for Billy. They start to get out, and then the guys who were taking the ride started to get in, but they also tried to like flirt with those girls, and I think their advances were not really accepted. The girls weren't rude or anything. And immediately, one of the girls was Asian, I think. She got out, and immediately one of the guys, after he gets in, uses some like racial slur about Asians. And I'm like, okay, you know, didn't sound very nice. All right, let's get going. So I didn't say that. I just like thinking, all right, this guy's a dick, but let's just get this ride over with as quickly as possible. So we're literally half a block from Ocean Ave, and you can't go any further in Santa Monica, but we had to go in the other direction, but my car was aimed towards the ocean. So I was gonna do a U-turn at the light legally and go back and take them to their destination. And immediately when the guy got in the car, he said, all right, do a U-turn right here. And I said, well, I'm just going to do one at the light. You know, I don't want us to get in trouble because you can't just do a U-turn right here, but at the light we can do it legally. There's police around, there's other cars. You know, it's not going to cause your fare to go up at all. Literally like a couple hundred feet to just do the U-turn legally. And then the guy just starts this whole argument with me like, you know, you can do it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, actually you can't. It's a business district. You can't just do U-turns anywhere over a double yellow. But I can do one legally at the light. It's totally cool. And he's like, no, actually you're wrong, and this and that. And yeah, and he says, you know, no, actually you're wrong, and this and that, and this is how U-turns work, and just wouldn't let it go. And I did the U-turn, and then we're driving still on the same block, but just turned around. And the guy is still yammering about, you know, telling me how I should have done the U-turn differently. And I think I got a little stressed out. I could have continued the ride, but it felt kind of good to say, hey guys, I'm really sorry. I can't argue anymore with you about this. I just want to give you a safe ride. So I'm gonna drop you guys off right here.
It's a very nice way to do it.
And I might have not said it in that friendly way. And I'm like, this is the end of the line, fellas. And they got out, and I think one guy cursed at me, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And then actually that was at the time when in the waybill on the Uber app, you could still see the person's last name, which I'm sure allowed for a lot of drivers to stalk women and other great things. But I saw the guy's last name. I'm not going to share it, and I like Googled it. And the first result was this like online dating audition that he made to be on a show. And I'm like, you know what? I think I made the right decision in taking this guy out of my car.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
Yeah.
I've never kicked anyone out before. I remember I was in Santa Monica actually one night. It was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I just wanted to go home. And I got one more request. I'm like, all right, I'll get it. Hopefully this guy's heading towards Hollywood, but he wasn't. He was going up to Malibu. So I picked him up, started the trip. Of course, it tells you the destination after you start it. And I'm just like, damn, dude, that's like 30 minutes out of my way. And then so I was like, hey, man, like, I'm really sorry it's late. I just want to get some rest. Do you mind ordering another Uber? And he's like, yeah, absolutely, no worries.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he was a nice guy and everything. I never kicked anyone out because of a bad situation, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that kicking him out.
Yeah, true. But I have had somebody cancel on me in the middle of a trip. Yeah, has that happened to you before?
I'm not sure it's happened to me, but I've certainly read about it, and I know that you might not necessarily realize what happened until you've been giving them a free ride for a little while. But did you notice it right away?
Well, the thing was, my tire popped on the highway.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was changing my tire, and as I was changing the tire, the guy just cancels the ride.
I see.
So should I just kick them out on the freeway? Your ride's over, get out?
That's a tough one.
So I took the next exit after I put the donut on, but I forget if I got paid for that one or not.
Usually the way the app works, and from my experience, not from my experience, but from what I read.
From what you said,
yeah, usually the way the app works, from my understanding, is that once the ride is canceled, you'll be paid for all the time and miles up to that point.
Okay.
Unless maybe the customer complains and says, you know, Khan got a flat tire while we were driving, please give me a refund. And I'm sure Uber would love to give a refund and then take Khan's money away, because they like to do stuff like that. But generally, you'll be paid up until they cancel. But be on the lookout for that, because some passengers do try to pull a fast one and cancel mid-trip.
Yeah, sneaky.
So, and I think
like it's not cheap enough already for them.
Right. I think the reason that's even an option is because, you know, what if your driver is just driving without you? Maybe they picked up someone else, or maybe they dropped you off and they're trying to jack up the fare by just continuing to drive when you're not even in the car. So at least the customer does have an option to end the ride. So I think that's why that feature is there.
Yeah, makes sense. I've had some times where I drop someone off like in the Hollywood Hills. I don't have service up there. It takes a couple minutes to get down and find signal before you can end the trip.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that it'll give me all the miles there and back, and not just assume just the miles, you know, not quite all the miles there.
Yeah.
I always wonder how it would pay out. So yeah, having a signal is really important too.
Well, now it's like the set price for the passenger before they order it, so they already know what they're going to pay, regardless. Right. I guess regardless of what route you take, right?
Seems to be. I guess unless you take some ridiculously long route. I saw another video, actually, Harry, the RideShare guy, and what he said was that in their experimentation with some drivers that he was working with, was that it'll present you, I believe, Google Maps with a couple options, and as long as you use one of those, or maybe it's in the Uber, the options are actually in the Uber navigation, I'm not sure, but what he said is as long as you use one of those, it should be fine. The customer fare shouldn't change, and then you can actually select like the longest one to get paid the most.
Yeah.
From what they're testing, that's what
they
found.
Then just Uber will be losing money on their end.
Hopefully. But not enough that they go out of business, just enough that we make a little more.
Yeah.
So you've talked about the flexibility of Uber and RideShare apps and why it works for you and your schedule and your lifestyle, so that you can do auditions or whatever else you have going on.
Right.
And that's awesome, you know, using it to work for your lifestyle. Have you, over your time as a driver, have you discovered any particular strategies or just tips that you feel like can help maximize your earnings?
Well, I feel like you always have to adapt to it, because times are always changing. There's always more drivers on the road. Right now, they have the earnings boosts, of course, and then the weekly incentives, or if you do like 18 trips, you get like $60 or whatever. So what I've been doing is I'm driving during periods of time where in the earnings boosts, I'm driving then, I'm trying to get like all my 18 trips in that zone, and then plus when I do 18 trips, I'll have an extra $55.
So you're basically chasing two incentives at the same time.
So yeah, so you gotta be smart with it. You gotta maximize your earnings, and that's actually the only time I like Uber Pool, because you can hit 18 trips in like 3-4 hours.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if you're going for a per trip incentive, like maybe 20 trips for $80 or something, those Uber Pool trips actually help. They don't hurt because you get, at least I get credited as far as the per trip incentive for each Uber Pool pickup. I get credited with a ride, and you do too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would never be doing them.
Right.
The other thing that I've learned is to not care about your rating so much. Because I know a lot of people that like just start with it, they stress about having a 5.0 rating, and it's just impossible. You're never gonna have a perfect rating. There's always gonna be one person that didn't like the exit that you took, or made a U-turn, for instance, at the wrong place.
Yeah.
You just can't be perfect, and you have to accept that, and just don't stress about your rating so much.
Just do your best and move on to the next ride.
Exactly.
Awesome.
And I also, a lot of people ask me, should I keep like snacks and water in the car? No, I wouldn't. Have you ever done that?
So I did waters when I first started with Uber. It was almost kind of expected, but the rates were a lot higher. When I first started driving, it was actually $2 per mile in LA. Jeez. There was no time component at that time, but then I experienced several fare cuts, and it was kind of funny because it was almost like an unspoken thing that we all just stopped providing waters at the same time. Because for a while I was happy to do it. It was a little annoying. The main thing was I'd have to go and clean up after these people. They would take one sip and then leave it, which I just hated. It's just so wasteful. Yeah. Or even like throw the bottle on the floor, and it's like, who are these savages that that are signing up as passengers? I know my mom didn't raise me like that. And as far as the transition from waters to no waters, it was kind of funny because I remember it was actually was it 2015? It's probably 2014 actually when I stopped with the waters. And so there had been several fare cuts, and I said to myself, you know what, I'm not going to do these waters. Let's see what happens. You know, are my ratings going to go down? And I remember one of the first nights I didn't have waters. I picked someone up and at a bar, and the guy's like, yeah, do you have any waters? And like, the first couple times I was like, oh no, the last passenger got my last one. And then after that, I'd just say, no, I'm so sorry, I don't. Yeah. And nobody really cared.
Yeah, you don't even have to say sorry, just say no.
Yeah, and then now it's not even an issue. Nobody expects UberX drivers to have waters anymore.
I take an Uber probably like once or twice a week. I can't remember the last time I saw snacks and water in there. Nobody's doing it.
You guys are doing great out there. Yeah. No waters, no snacks.
The only thing is definitely keep chargers in there. Everybody always has to juice up.
Yep, chargers are great. That's the one thing I offer my passengers. Yeah. Let me ask you this. So when I pick up an Uber passenger, because I want them to feel welcome right off the bat, right? I want to encourage a comfortable ride for them, which will also be a comfortable ride for me, and just a pleasant experience. So as soon as somebody gets in my car, I say, hey guys, so looks like you're going to the Friendly Neighborhood Strip Club this evening. I'm going to be taking this route. Does that sound cool? When I say that, obviously the GPS, whatever I'm using, is going to give me the most efficient route. Their price is already locked in. But to me, that encourages trust. Like, so yeah, I'm going to take this freeway to that freeway. Right. Not a detailed thing, but I just want to make sure they're on board with that. And I also say, if I can adjust the temperature for you or put on any particular type of music, just let me know. I do have chargers if you need them as well. I try not to be too gracious with the music because I hate offering to plug people in. If they ask me if I have an aux cable, I generally say no because I don't. I have it through Bluetooth. But if somebody does want to listen to a particular Spotify station or something, I'll do that.
You sound like a 5-star driver.
Thank you. So how about for you? Like, what's your pickup routine when you pick somebody up? Do you have like a routine you go through?
Well, nowadays, people get in my car and I say, hi, how are you? After that, the next thing I say is, have a good day. No, I change it up. Like when I first started doing it, I would have everything in my car. I would say, hey, what kind of music do you want to listen to? Do you need a charger? Like, how's your day going? Blah, blah, blah. And then as time went on, I realized like a lot of these people don't necessarily want to talk to you. Nowadays, if someone brings up conversation, like, yeah, I'll talk to them. But now it's like, it's more silent rides than ever because I realized sucking up to the passenger and trying to be nice to them doesn't affect my ratings personally. So that's how it's changed for me. Like over time, I just tend to not try as hard, really.
The less you try, the better you do.
Yeah, I mean, less is more.
That's awesome. That's interesting. I feel like sometimes I talk a lot. I might even talk more than this guy. I can ramble. Right. I can ramble forever. But sometimes I find that I do kind of force conversations too much, maybe, and then right when somebody gets in the car, we're talking for a couple minutes, and then the conversation will just go down in flames.
Yeah, and then it's just awkward because you're talking for like 5 minutes and then just bam, silence.
And then I just become, I'm so focused on the GPS, like this is, I'm so focused on this, sir, ma'am, don't worry about it, I got it from here, but obviously I'm just devastated that,
Yeah, it's all right. Some people, you got to realize, some people just don't want to talk.
You kind of got to just evaluate the situation, evaluate what the passenger's needs are, right?
Yeah, and just pick up the social cues. If you ask them how's it going, they just say good. You just don't talk to them. They don't want to be talked to.
There you go. And I noticed that in some of your videos, it looks like you've experimented with a couple different tip signs, tip jars.
Yeah.
That's something I've never tried, but I've always been curious. What's your experience been like with that? Since Uber doesn't allow tips in the app, so the only way to get tips with Uber is with cash. Have you gotten more tips using the signs? And what exactly did you use? A sign or a jar?
So I used the tip sign that you hang on your rearview mirror.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't helped like a lot. Like I'm not making $100 more a week, but I'm definitely getting more tips than I used to.
And that's good. And your ratings aren't suffering like...
No, not at all, because it's not the biggest sign. It's just hanging there.
And it's not offensive or anything.
Not at all.
Okay, cool. So I guess maybe I should experiment with a tip sign.
Yeah, I mean, it can't hurt.
Or a tip jar. And you've tried a jar too, or no, just the sign?
I tried a jar for a week. There wasn't really a good place in my car to have it.
I see it.
So I just kept it in my front seat. But a lot of people sit in the back, so they're not going to reach that far over to throw a tip in.
Okay, I see.
So the sign is way better than the jar, I think.
All right, good to know.
I mean, it depends on what kind of car if you have. If you have cup holders in the back seat,
so I was
be careful. People might steal your tips while you're not looking.
I was thinking, those Salvation Army drums that they have outside around Christmas time?
Yeah.
Could put one of those in the back.
Yeah.
It's big, about 20-gallon tip jar.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as the sign isn't too big, I don't think it'll affect your rating.
All right, I'll definitely have to experiment with that. And just from all of your experiences as a driver, do you have any tips for new drivers or veteran drivers? Anything, in terms of which apps to use or when to drive, or you've talked about not to worry about ratings, but are there any other general strategies or tips that you feel like can help other drivers be successful?
So, for new drivers, I would say avoid doing Uber Pool for your first couple of trips because they can be pretty stressful.
So just ignore those requests. And
for like the first day, I would ignore them.
Okay.
Because Uber's not really going to get on your case. It's your first day.
Right, and with Uber, we also have the option we can accept any ride that comes in by tapping the screen, but we can also ignore requests by just letting the request keep beeping and making the obnoxious sound and blinking on our phone screen. And just don't do anything. So if you don't want to take a ride, like an Uber Pool, just don't do anything, and 10 or 15 seconds later, the request will disappear.
That's right.
And then, so avoiding Uber Pool for new drivers, anything else?
I would say do you use the navigation, the built-in navigation?
I don't. I'm a Waze guy myself.
Okay, see, I'm a Google guy.
You're a Google guy, okay.
There's beef here now.
Yeah.
I used to use Waze, but then there's just too many zigzags and it makes you take these like really hard left turns and takes you down alleyways, so I started using Google Maps. That's a personal preference. Definitely use either Waze or Google Maps as opposed to the built-in navigation system that Uber has.
Yeah, I like to say use whatever navigation you're comfortable with, and especially if you're in a city where there's traffic. In a smaller city, Uber's navigation might work just fine.
Yeah, maybe.
But in LA, we really rely on traffic data. If you take the wrong road where there's an accident or a backup or construction, you could be in a world of trouble here in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So when you first started driving, you were doing Uber only, and then soon after added Lyft, and now
I actually started with Lyft.
Oh, you started with Lyft?
Started with Lyft first, that's right, because did Lyft, a friend of mine signed me up, we both got $500 to do it.
Nice.
And then it was going great because back then, if you did like 30 hours within a week, they only take out a 10% commission. And then if you do 50 hours, you kept everything. But now it's different, it goes by rides as opposed to hours.
Okay.
So I was doing that for a while. Once that promotion stopped, now you have to have like a 2011 or newer car for that. So I have a 2007, so it's not gonna work for me anymore. And then I downloaded Uber originally just to get the $500 sign-on bonus. And then went back to Lyft, but then Lyft was there was like a time where it wasn't getting a lot of requests. So I would just use both Lyft and Uber at the same time, and whatever request came in, I would just do that one.
So would you say it's super valuable to be able to sign into multiple apps?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Because it just gives you more opportunities to earn, right?
Yeah, if Uber's having a slow day, you can just go to Lyft. If Grubhub's having a slow day, sign in to DoorDash as well. It's good to have them all.
All right,
Yeah.
so there you have it. So if you're a new driver out there or you're a veteran driver, you know, I talk about a lot of different strategies and tips, but it's always great to get another perspective. So thank you to Khan for sharing yours. And as you can see, some of, you know, his best tips are for new drivers. You know, try to avoid Uber Pool at first. It can be overwhelming. Don't worry too much about ratings. That's such a great tip. You know, I think that definitely works. The more you stress and worry about ratings, the probably worse your ratings
I would say
will be.
if you have like above 4.7, don't stress about it.
Yeah, just do your best and everything will fall into place. But obviously, if there is some issue, Uber will let you know. So, you know, look for any kind of negative comments and then correct that. And then also just adding more apps. So you said you wish you had you'd signed up for more apps sooner, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Do it all at once. Well, not all at once. I would sign up for Uber first, get that sign-on bonus, and then do Lyft, get that sign-on bonus.
Yeah.
It's hard to do them both at the same time. You only have like 30 days.
Yeah, learn each app, and if there's a referral bonus, take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, I just want to thank Khan for taking the time and sharing some of his experiences as a rideshare driver. Again, I would encourage you guys to go over to his channel at RideShare Tips. He's got some great videos on accessories for drivers, on some experiments he's done with tip signs and tip jars, and then also some really cool ride-along vlogs. So please check out Khan's channel and subscribe. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it. I would always love to hear from other drivers, and I want to hear about your experiences. So if you want to share yours, definitely let me know. Wherever you're watching this video from, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and we will see you guys soon.
All right, see you guys.